Hey guys, welcome to an all-new episode of Cult Movie Tuesdays. Today we are talking about 1974's Death Wish. So yeah, this should be a good one. I love this movie, and I just recently picked this up and just recently rewatched it, so we're going to be talking about this film. We'll talk about cast, production, critical response, my thoughts on the film, and a whole bunch more. So I hope you stick around to the end. Thank you to everybody who's subscribed recently. I am closing in quickly on 300 subscribers, so thank you to everybody who's joined, commented, liked, thumbs up, all that jazz. It's so cool and it keeps me going. So thank you for your support. Yeah, so let's see. It's been pretty heavy for the reviews. Just recently, I talked about these two movies, which were both pretty heavy hitters. And this one is, of course, not a horror movie or a giallo, but definitely a heavy movie, a vigilante revenge story. So I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna have to review some comedies or something soon because this is getting pretty heavy. But anyway, this movie, Death Wish. This is a thriller vigilante action film from 1974. It was directed by a person named Michael Winner, who also did The Mechanic as well as Death Wish 2 and 3. And I'll leave it at that. This movie stars Charles Bronson, who was also in The Magnificent Seven, The Great Escape, and he was also in all of the Death Wish movies. And I don't have them all, but I did recently pick this one up as well. Death Wish 2, 3, and 4. There is a Death Wish 5 from 1994, which I've never seen, so I still have to find that one. I don't know if it gets good reviews or not, but I do love the first three. I don't know if I've actually seen part 4 yet. I think I've only seen the first 3. I remember really liking 2 and 3 as well, but this also stars Hope Lang, who was also in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, as well as Blue Velvet. She played, I think she played Laura Dern's mom in that movie. Is that true? Or aunt or something? I can't remember now. This also shows Vincent Gardenia, who is in Death Wish 2. And it also has really cool of note. I don't know if these were their first movies, but they were definitely very young in this movie. Jeff Goldblum plays a hoodlum in this movie, and Christopher Guest from Spinal Tap. They're both in these very minor roles in this movie. Jeff Goldblum, of course, plays a hoodlum in this movie, and kind of a bad guy. And so he's in one of the kind of very pivotal scenes. And then I guess you could say Christopher Guest is also in a pivotal scene at the end of the film. But it was cool to see them and just see that they were just like very young people in this film. So the synopsis for this film is: once a mild-mannered liberal New York City architect Paul Kersey, played by Charles Bronson, snaps when intruders break into his home, murdering his wife Hope Lang and violently raping his daughter. A business trip to Tucson, Arizona lands him a gift from a client, a revolver he uses to patrol the streets when he returns home. Frustrated that the police cannot find the intruders, he becomes a vigilante, gunning down any criminal that crosses his path. The public finds his vigilantism heroic. And this is, what was that one with the brave one? With, I'm blanking. Oh, it did remind me of that, or clearly that movie was inspired by this movie. Jodie Foster. Also a cool movie I would recommend, The Brave One. It's kind of a reversal on this, where her husband gets killed and then she becomes a vigilante. And it is kind of the same premise, really, because they're being a vigilante, very secretive, like nobody knows who they are, and they're trying to track them down or whatever. So the film was based on a person named Brian Garfield's 1972 novel of the same name. I think he also wrote the story Death Sentence, which was turned into a movie with Kevin Bacon. Originally, Sidney Lumet was to have directed Jack Lemmon as Paul Kersey and Henry Fonda as Okoa, which I think is the police chief. But this would have been a very different movie if Jack Lemmon had played this role instead of Charles Bronson. I think it would have been a really strange, different movie. But The film was rejected by many other studios because of its controversial subject matter and the perceived difficulty of casting someone in the vigilante role. So Paramount finally was the one that picked it up. Several actors were considered for the role of Paul Kersey, including Steve McQueen, Clint Eastwood, Burt Lancaster, George C. Scott, Frank Sinatra, Lee Marvin, and even Elvis Presley, if you can believe that. I don't know. Now, that's allegedly from Wikipedia, so you can never be 100% sure, but some of those choices seem like they would be, like, I could definitely see Clint Eastwood or Lee Marvin in this role easily. But I'm kind of glad that Charles Bronson was the one that was chosen, because he's such an interesting, I wish I knew more about him. Maybe I'll have to do a deeper dive on his life, but he seems like such an interesting guy, and his characters are always so quiet, mild-mannered, and very traditional, like very manly, kind of man's man kind of character. But you almost get the sense from him like that's how he is in real life. Like, I don't know if that's true, but I got that, you get that vibe off of him that like he's just probably very soft-spoken and quiet, but very thoughtful and methodical. And he's definitely that character in this film. The original producers were replaced by Italian film mogul Dino De Laurentiis, who I think of when I think of his name, I always think of like Conan the Barbarian, or I think Dune, the David Lynch Dune. I feel like he had his hand in those productions as well. Paramount Studios purchased the distribution rights of the film in the United States market, and while Columbia Pictures licensed the distribution rights for international markets. De Laurentiis raised the $3 million budget for the film by pre-selling the film for the distribution rights. Death Wish was shot on location in New York during the winter of 1973 and 1974. Apparently, Charles Bronson wanted to film the movie in California because he wanted to be closer to his family, but he was overruled by De Laurentiis and Winter because they insisted on a New York setting, which I kind of feel worked better for this, right? That kind of cold New York city aesthetic. During the whole production, the crew members had to wear face masks due to the freezing temperatures that would make the water in their eyes freeze. And you really get that when you're watching this movie. You really get that sense of like being in a cold, harsh environment. And apparently that was actually true. Herbie Hancock did produce and compose the original score for the soundtrack to the movie. This was his third film score and a follow-up to the 1966 film Blow Up, although I think he did another one in between the two. There was a remake of this movie in 2018 directed by Eli Roth, the director of Hostel and Cabin Fever, which starred Bruce Willis in the role of Paul Kersey. It got really bad reviews. I think it has like an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. So I've never seen it. Not really have much interest. When it was originally announced, I was excited, but then I don't know. I saw some trailer for it and got the reviews in, and I've always kind of avoided it. But this film got mixed reviews upon its release. Many critics, or at least one critic, criticized the antisocial behavior of Paul Kersey's character. Charles Champlin of the Los Angeles Times called it, quote, a despicable motion picture. It is nasty and demagogic stuff, an appeal to brute emotions and against reason, unquote. So some people did not like this movie. Bronson defended the film and felt it was intended to be a commentary on violence and was meant to attack violence, not romanticize it. So it currently holds a 66% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a very violent movie. It's a very like, you hurt my family and now I'm going to kill just random people. And so that's literally what it is. There's really not a lot of other stuff going on here. This is just a straight up revenge tale. And for those of us who like revenge tales, it's an awesome movie. Like, Kill Bill or something like that. Like I love those kinds of movies. And when I only saw this movie for the first time probably about 5 years ago, but I instantly fell in love with it. And like I said in previous videos, I'm kind of catching up on a lot of older cinema, and so I did see the Dirty Harry series several years ago and loved those ones. And it's kind of like that one man army kind of going out. And Charles Bronson is, anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. But my thoughts on this film, yeah, the setting really cements the whole feel of this movie. Cold winter, early 70s New York. Everything's dirty. It's scary. It's dark. His wife, is assaulted along with his daughter at the beginning of the movie. That scene's very graphic, so be forewarned about that. But when he goes to bury his wife, like have the funeral, there was this one scene where they're in the cemetery and it's snowing and they're all in black and they're just covered with this light, snow that's just kind of landed on them. And it's so sad. And the daughter, after the daughter is assaulted, like she survives the assault, but then she basically goes into like this vegetative state and she's like just completely traumatized by the whole thing. And so it's like she just wanders through the rest of the movie as a ghost, and it's really, really spooky, really, really heartbreaking. And Charles Bronson's very stone cold, and after this happens, he has a little dialogue with his son-in-law where he's like, what happened to us? Like, if this was the Wild West times, we would have gone and gotten revenge for this. And now we just kind of sit back. And he says to the son-in-law, like, what is that? And the son-in-law says, like, civilized. And so it's like, there's this whole commentary on like the passiveness of police, and especially probably back in those times, like there was no DNA testing and stuff like that. So it was like harder to catch people and things like that. And so he's just really like devastated by what's happened. And he just decides, I'm going to take this into my own hands. And so for better or for worse, I mean, I won't give away the movie, but it's a bit of a heartbreaker. It's very violent and rough and disturbing, but it is heartbreaking also to see this character go through this, and this is the way he deals with it. Because in the movie, he is kind of portrayed as like this passive kind of like conscientious objector to the war and like World War, or was it Korea? Yeah, I think it was Korea. And so he's just this very soft-spoken architect. But then he just kind of flips. But like he doesn't become like outwardly enraged and like really violent. Like it's just like he just gets a gun and he just goes out and takes care of business, and that's it. And so it's this very strange mood. But Charles Bronson's just cool as a cucumber, and he just goes out and does this thing. Now his initial reaction to his initial killing is he goes home and he falls to his knees and he's crying and he's throwing up, but over each time that he kills, he becomes kind of more hardened, and that is very unsettling. The soundtrack was really cool, very moody, set the tone for this film. Again, some of the scenes are very disturbing. So the assault scene at the beginning is very disturbing. So if you're not in a good place for that, I would probably say maybe don't watch it. But do watch it when you're feeling stronger, because it is a very good vigilante revenge tale. It's nothing more than that. If that's the kind of movie you like, you're gonna like it, because it's like, for me, probably one of the quintessential kind of vigilante revenge tales. And it's very simplistic in its storytelling and tone, but yeah, very gritty, very dark. This is a fairly well-known movie. I think a very fairly infamous movie is from that perspective. Like I said in previous videos, I love 70s cinema, and I just like I rewatched the Dirty Harry, the first 4 Dirty Harry movies, and I'm gonna be probably rewatching some of these ones as well, which go into the 80s, but kind of carry that tone forward from the 70s. And this is essential 70s cinema. Kind of also, I thought about Taxi Driver a little bit when I was watching this too. It's just in that kind of vein. So if you like that kind of thing, highly recommend it. For me, this is a 5 out of 5. I've ever since I saw this movie several years ago, I was just like, this is one of my immediate favorites. Love this movie. Can't praise it enough. But again, if you're not into that kind of thing, this probably isn't going to be for you. It is, like I said, very gritty and dark and violent. And yeah, so that's that. My thoughts on this film. Highly recommended to those who like that kind of thing. Highly not recommended to people who don't like that kind of thing. So it does say on the cover the original Vigilante. So I feel like this kind of set the tone for a lot of movies that followed. This is a 2006 Paramount Pictures DVD release. It is Region 1. It's from 1974, color, 93 minutes, beautiful. It is rated R, obviously for violence and stuff like that, and the assault scene and stuff. It's pretty hard to watch, but yeah, this is a real good movie. This edition, I think it's pretty bare bones. This disc looks like it has, I think that might have been an image from the original poster art where he's turning back and pointing the gun at a street thug. But yeah, this is, I love this movie. Now, like I said, I think I've only seen 2 once, and I've seen 3 a couple of times. The 3, I think some people kind of make fun of that movie, but I thought it was really cool. These are all, and I might end up doing reviews of these as well, but these are basically like each movie, something bad happens to somebody he loves, and he goes on a killing spree, basically. It's pretty simple, and it's pretty elemental in its target, but yeah, really good. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this film. This edition is pretty bare bones. I'm sure there's a nicer Blu-ray out there. You can currently rent this on Cineplex, Prime Video, and YouTube. So I couldn't find a place to watch this for free, which is weird, but you do have some streaming options if you want to rent it, and there isn't any free streaming of this, but yeah, I highly recommend this. There's actually Jeff Goldblum is right there. You probably can't really see him that well, but yeah, really like this movie. Let me know your thoughts on this film. Did you see Death Wish? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Why? If so, why? Consider giving me the thumbs up if you like this review. Consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. Follow me over on Instagram at Night Owl Video. And until next time, I will see you at the thrift store or at the video store or just out and about. Hopefully not on the cold New York City streets in 1973. But until then, I will see you in the next video. Take good care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I will see you in the next video.